Hey guys, it's Miss Rodriguez. If you're interested in doing this extra credit assignment, I'm just going to set it up for you. I'm going to walk you through basically what I'm wanting you to do and engage with in order to receive this extra credit. This extra credit assignment is going to count as a full grade. So you could potentially use this grade to replace another grade if you don't do so well on another grade. So it's not just points, it's like an entire grade. So I do highly recommend doing this assignment, especially at the beginning of the school year, because you don't know what you may be struggling with in the future, and this could be a really easy way to just replace one of those grades you didn't do too hot on or you didn't do at all and get those points. So I'm going to show you real quick this presentation. It's not long at all. The instructions say follow the slideshow and watch this video, then answer the questions, okay? And then make sure you put your name. So this first picture that I have here, if you know anything about 9/11, if you don't know, tomorrow is the anniversary of 9/11. 9/11 was this pretty tragic event in American history in 2001. I was 6 years old at the time. I was in the first grade, and even though I was little, I remember it like it was yesterday. And I like showing this picture because this is the picture that I think of every single time I think of this event. So basically what happened was there was 4 planes, and those 4 planes, they were set to go to different destinations across the United States. They were hijacked by terrorists, and these people who hijacked these airplanes were trying to attack the United States. So there were 2 planes that were set to hit the World Trade Center, and what you see right now, these 2 buildings are the World Trade Center. So one plane flew, and I believe the first plane hit this tower first. You can see, or hit this tower first. You can see here, there's smoke and stuff. The plane is inside the building. And then the second plane, I believe a couple hours later, came and flew and hit this building. Okay? A couple hours later, these 2 buildings eventually collapsed. And people who were inside, which as you can see, if you were underneath, you could get out of the towers. So here, these people could get out of the towers. But if you were above where the airplane was, a lot of those people were trapped. So these towers eventually go down. A lot of people lost their life that day. The entire city of New York, I believe this is Manhattan, the entire city of Manhattan of New York was covered in debris and soot, and it was just so much soot that people, like, it looked like it was black and white when they filmed it, but really what it was just all the dust that covered all of those people. So there was 4 planes, those 2 hit there. Another plane hit the Pentagon, and let me see if I can find a picture real quick. Pentagon, 9/11. Let me see. So you can see here, this is the Pentagon. If you know anything about the Pentagon, you know anything about military, the Pentagon is where the United States of America houses all of their military branches. So the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Army, the Air Force, everyone goes to the Pentagon here. This is where we're stationed. That's the main base. And it's in the shape of a pentagon, which is why it's called the Pentagon. It's in Washington, D.C. And a plane actually flew and hit one of the sides of the Pentagon, and a lot of people lost their lives there as well. And then lastly, there was one other plane, and it just luckily did not make its way to anywhere that it was going. People think that it was on its way to the White House to attack the White House. But the people on the plane actually found out what was going on. They figured out what was going on, and they hijacked the plane back from the terrorists who originally took over the plane. And every single person on that plane made a decision to essentially crash the plane in order to save the United States and to save the White House or wherever the target was. And so you can kind of see the debris here of that plane. But it was a tragic day in American history, and it was tragic because there was not a single person that it did not affect. What I mean by that is yes, this happened in New York and Washington, D.C. and Pennsylvania, which is the northeastern part of the United States, but everyone from all over the entire nation felt what impact this had on their world. So just real quick, I'm going to tell you, yeah, I was 6 years old, and I remember we used to have like a carpet on our, like a, how you have like a carpet that you sit at, and we would do like our days of the month and things like that. And I remember sitting on my carpet, and it was in the morning. It was just like the beginning of school just started. And I looked around, and like a lot of people weren't in my class. Like I normally had like 15 or so people in my class, and there was maybe like 10 of us. And I was like, hey, where is everybody? Um, and at that time, my teacher, her name was Miss Pyle, I remember. Miss Pyle comes in, and her face is just red, like beet red, and her eyes are swollen, and you can tell that she had been crying. And so, I'm 6 years old, and I'm like, what? Why is Miss Pyle upset? And she doesn't say anything, she doesn't do anything. She would just occasionally like leave the classroom and I guess go talk to other teachers, and then she'd come back, or maybe she left the classroom to collect herself. I'm not actually sure. But she'd come back, and when she'd come back, we went about our day. But as the day went on, people kept getting pulled out of my class. Like people kept getting pulled to go home. And so by the end of the day, there was only like 5 or 6 of us left, because parents were going into schools and pulling out their children. Because at the time, as this was happening, as the attacks were happening, people didn't know where like the next attack would happen. People didn't know what was going to happen anywhere else. Like no one knew. So parents were pulling their children to take them home, because the United States was being attacked in short. So my sister, she's at the time she was older. I think she was in the 4th or 5th grade. So she's older, and she went and she came to pick me up so she could take us to the bus stop at the end of the day, where we all got on the bus and we went home. And she had like a stern look in her eyes, like she knew what was going on, but I didn't. I was 6 years old. And she's like grabbing me by my neck and like leading me where to go, and just like trying to get us home super duper fast. So we get home, and as I'm walking from the bus to my house, I notice that my dad's truck and my mom's car is in the driveway. And I thought that was really, really weird, because my mom and dad, like they were never home when I got home from school. They worked until 5 or 6 sometimes. So when I got home, I was like, this is really weird. Like, why are mom and dad home? And so I walked into the living room, and this picture was basically playing on the news, on my TV as soon as I walked in my house in the living room. That's what was playing. It was this picture, but in real time, just the smoke coming out and all of this stuff coming out. And it was just this image that kept playing over and over and over again. And you're going to see in the video in this next slide, what the news reports looked like. And my mom and dad were sitting on the sofa, and they were crying. My mom and my dad. And for my dad to be crying, that was a huge thing. So I kind of was like, oh my God, well, what's going on? So my other sister takes me into the room. She's like, go change out of your clothes, whatever. And she asked me if I had any homework. And I remember I was just like, no, like, what's going on? No one would tell me what was going on. And eventually, we all go into the living room, and we're all sitting on my couch that we used to have. And it's like my mom, and she has my sister in her lap. It was me, and then my dad had me in his lap, and then my bigger sister was on the other side, and we were all just, watching the TV. And I just remember my dad holding me, and I could feel him crying. And because he was crying, I started to cry. But I still didn't really know what was going on. And so we kind of just like held each other all night and watched this happen. And my mom and dad didn't really explain what was going on. I think that was because they were still trying to figure out what was going on. But we all just kind of sat and we watched this and we cried together. And I remember thinking, it was kind of like a special time, because my dad actually ordered pizza, and my dad never ordered pizza unless it was like a holiday or something. But he had ordered pizza, and he didn't feel like cooking, or my mom didn't feel like cooking that night. So I'm telling you this because this was kind of a crazy time in American history, number one, and I think you guys should be aware of it and should know about it. And if you can, ask the people around you at home if they're older than you. If you have people who were alive then, ask them what happened. What's their 9/11 story? What happened in their eyes during this day. So that's my little story. What you'll do next is you'll watch this video, which is just a quick like video of the different images that I was describing that were showing up on the news. It's kind of harder to watch, but I think you should know this stuff. It's interesting stuff. And then when you're done, you're just going to answer this short answer question. It says, imagine 9/11 happens today, September 11th, 2020. Oh, I'm thinking it's 2019. 2020. Write for the next 6 minutes on page 17 about what you would do. How do you think you would feel? How do you think the people around you would react? So the biggest thing here is you need to give me 3 to 5 sentences. All right. If anything is shorter than that, I'm not going to give you the full extra credit because this is extra credit. I do expect you to actually do the entire thing as best as you can so you can earn that extra credit. When you're done, you'll submit it like normal on Google Classroom, and I'll go in and add those extra credit points as soon as I can. My hope is that as soon as you turn them in, I get it back to you so that way you know if you got the credit or not. But that's your extra credit assignment.